Hey guys, we're back. It's always the worst. Simpsons in review. It's been months since or at least a month since I've been able to do this. So we're back. It's me, Michael, and with me as always.
Chris, hello, I'm Chris.
Nice. You are
Yeah.
Chris. You are Chris indeed. How
Aye,
are you, Chris?
not too
How are you
bad.
today?
Finally sat down to some Simpsons for the first time in a while because
I, how, how did you
I was
enjoy that?
alright. Because again, I've been going out my way not to watch them until we got back into doing this. I was like, no watching
Yeah.
them. Gonna just fucking completely wean myself off them for a while.
Yeah, and just wait for a
Yeah.
little bit.
That, so
Good.
because of that, it was actually quite nice. You know, doing the
To get
yeah to
back.
get back into it. Oh, sorry, Michael. Your camera changed to just being me there for a minute.
Sweet. I love it. I love
Why did
when
it
that
do that?
happens.
There we go. Michael's back. It's not me talking to myself.
Woo. I'm actually going to move that so you can see me.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
to anybody that
go.
hasn't been here for this, we're going through all of it, and I mean all of the Simpsons. Maybe stopping at 30 because I don't want to do this till I'm old and dead and whatnot. But so far, we've done all of season 1, which is on YouTube now. So if you want to catch up, get to YouTube, watch our Simpsons stuff.
Do it.
Do it. You know you want it.
Season 2 is coming steadily.
This is our last part 4, the finale of season 2.
Yeah.
But don't do that right now. Stay here with us. Be
Yeah.
with us.
Watch us. We're the important ones. We're making the stuff.
Yeah. Well, we would be if Michael would stop, playing with his microphone.
Nope. Can't do it. No, like this mic arm just arrived today and I'm just fiddling with like how I want it to sit and stuff like that. So I'm sorry everyone.
Yeah, stop fiddling with your arm.
Shall we get to talking about some Simpsons then?
Yes, so we're jumping
Cool.
into episode 17 is our first one back, and it was old money and it was boring.
I thought it was a very nice story,
It was lovely. It was a lovely revelation from Grandpa.
but it was boring.
It was a bit boring. To anybody that doesn't know, Grandpa Simpson ends up being a bit annoyed with his family because he meets a lovely lady in the nursing home, and they don't get it on. I wish they got it on. They deserve a wee bit of getting it on, but they end up having a lovely little bit of companionship. They get to know each other over taking their pills, which is, a sexy scene.
Odd. Yeah, that was odd in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But also there was a lot of cutting there. There was a lot of like jump cuts.
Yeah.
So you don't know for a fact that they didn't get it on.
I hope
Yeah.
they did. But anyway,
Yeah.
the poor old lady dies, as old ladies do.
Yep.
But Grandpa gets dragged away because Homer and that feel bad that they don't actually spend time with them. And then the time that he's like, please just fuck off. It's her birthday. I want to be here for her birthday. And she dies. And he thinks she died of a broken heart because he wasn't there.
So did you get the joke? She died of a burst ventricle, which is part of the heart.
All right, so that's just a broken heart. Nope.
Yeah, so she died because her heart fucked up.
Oh, no. I did not get that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, they'll say it was a burst ventricle, but it was a broken heart. Like,
oh, my God. That's such... Oh, I'm a bit dumb. So, but outside of that...
my medical knowledge could be wrong, but I believe a ventricle.
I think you're right. But this episode had one of those things where, as you say, it's a nice episode. Like, he ends up realising I'm going to spend my money on the old folks' home because they're these peoples.
So that's just a point I was going to make. This does the sitcom faux pas. Something is different at the
Yes.
end of the episode, and the retirement castle has a prolonged change to it.
Yeah.
It is from then on. It looks good and nicer, and a place that you might actually want to send your elderly relative.
Yeah, and it was a very touching moment, and I like touching moments, but outside of that, nothing else really happened outside of Homer begging him for money.
No, which is, well, Homer didn't even really beg. He was just like, well, Bart said it, but it's actually a good idea. Just give us the money.
Yeah.
What was worse is Mr. Burns coming in. And Mr. Burns is like, please, 106,000 is so much money. And he's like, fuck off.
You're a billionaire, you big plamp. I'm trying my best. I'm
Is that what
trying to
you're
not
going with?
swear as much.
Well, I just did.
Mm.
So the swear seal is broken.
It's been it didn't last long, did it?
No, it didn't.
So
I'm back.
after this, we went on to Brush with Greatness, where things get a bit more interesting.
Yes, and I love this episode. I thought it was really, really good, because it expands on Marge's character, which very few episodes do.
That's true. So would you take us through what kind of happens in Brushes with Greatness?
So, Brush with Greatness, Homer realizes he needs to get thin, so they go up to the attic to get his sports equipment so he can train, and because that is a crucial part of the episode, um, and they find the artwork of Ringo Starr. So Lisa is like, "Well, Mum, this is good. Come on, let's go nurture your gift and bring it back and all that stuff." They find out Marge is really good at painting, and then Mr. Burns comes forward and says, "I want you to make a painting of me for the new wing that I'm opening at the museum." But obviously, Marge's whole thing was capturing the inner beauty, bringing out the best in her subject. Mr. Burns doesn't have that. So she actually, it's a really good sentiment of like, he has no good side, he has no bright side, but he's just an old man. He's frail and will die soon.
So she draws him naked.
Yep. So it's just that's all he is just this old man.
Do you know what's funny about that is when she draws it and he's like, I am so thankful that you didn't, embarrass my gentleman area. And she's like, I was
Yeah, she's
trying
like,
to.
I did. No, I did.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, that was funny.
This is when you realise Mr. Burns is uber up there, horrid person. The way he speaks to Homer is so bad. I felt so
Not
shit.
even the way he speaks to Homer, it's the way he speaks to
Oh
everyone.
no, but Homer's moment, that moment where Homer was fucking heart wrenching. As a person going through
Yeah.
weight loss and trying my damnedest to do it, losing a pound's a huge thing. Homer lost like 3 or 4 over the course of this thing, and he got under like a certain bit. And Mr.
3 or
Burns,
4 pounds. He lost about 30 or 40
What,
pounds
did he?
across the whole episode.
Wow.
Yeah, because he was up at like 260 or 270, and he made his way down to 239
wow, good for him.
because that's where his weight stuck
Right,
permanently.
but then him say, Mr. Burns, like, you're the fattest thing I've ever seen. You're like, and I feel his pain about wanting to go in and scooshy cream or eat some shite. I've had day times where I'm like, I feel shit and I want to eat myself in the oblivion. So Homer, I'm with you, man. I feel you. I feel your pain.
And then obviously this is where we start to see the relationship properly between Mr. Smithers and Mr. Burns, or how Mr. Smithers sees him. At first he's just like, oh, he's my best friend and he's my boss. But there's always that little inkling towards something else.
Yeah. And again, maybe this is early 90s, so even kind of hinting at stuff like that is quite a big deal. And they're not super tactful about it, but they're more tactful than I thought they would have been for a cartoon.
Yeah. And we get a guest star again in this episode. John Lovitz is back, John Lovitz voiced Artie Ziff.
Yeah.
And he voices a bunch of other characters as well. So he's back as the art teacher.
All right. The original art teacher? No, he's the second art teacher. The one who gets super excited over like the guys painting the railing.
Everything. Yeah, him guys painting the railing. Marvelous.
Yes.
And there's another guest star, a big one, Ringo Starr.
Yes. Do you know, I just have it in my head canon now that that's what Ringo Starr actually does with his life. He just sits in his big mansion office and just responds to every letter he's ever had. That's Ringo Starr to me, and it always will be now. It's so good.
He probably is. I mean, he's not going to be playing any instruments these days.
No. The forgotten
He's not very
Beatle.
good at it.
To be fair, like, there's a really interesting story about Ringo Starr.
What do you mean? You know, there was an interview a while ago and they says, is Ringo Starr the greatest drummer in the world? And one of them said he's not even the greatest drummer in the Beatles.
Yes, because that's very true. The story of Ringo getting into the Beatles is actually pretty cool. So, there was another guy that I can't remember his name. Whoever's there, give a Google, whatever. But there was another guy who was a drummer. And he was the handsome guy in the Beatles as well. He had a look to him that wasn't like the Beatles, and it wasn't the way the Beatles were going. And what happened was, because he didn't look and he wasn't going to be the Beatles look in that, they replaced him. They just kicked him out the band just before Beatlemania. even though he was a better musician, because Ringo would just do as he's told. They would be the Beatle they needed.
Beatlemania, their obviously well-known wrestling pay-per-view that they all did.
Yes, where Hulk Hogan, power bombed.
Hulk Hogan fucking atomic leg drop George Harrison.
He's like, and it's just Beatles songs playing when he comes out. Fucking great.
Yep.
But he left that band, and it's this lovely story of he ended up going through a really, really horrible time leaving the band. And because he was like, I'm a good musician. He tried, and he failed, and he fucked up. And it turns out his life is super good now because he decided to just fuck the Beatles and not try and be a musician anymore. And it's just a really nice tale of that over-the-top life is not necessarily for you. And it's quite cool.
Yeah.
It was just quite a cool wee story of, like, you always expect the guys to be bitter and, trying all their hardest to be like, no, they were my songs, they were this and that. And he was just like, I don't care, I've got a wife and I'm pretty chill.
Fair enough.
And then Ringo just had a big nose. That's all I know of Ringo. He's got a massive nose, and I only know that because of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
So, after that, see, again, these early seasons, season 1 had so much to discuss because of some of the tones and the themes they set in place. Season 2 is where they're starting to turn more into the cartoony Simpsons. So our discussion points only is on point as they normally are. And it's been a while. We're needing to ease our way into it.
Well,
things start lighting up in the next episode, though.
So this next episode, you say it lightens up, but there is a deeper thing that could be discussed from it, of course. Yeah. So next episode, Lisa's substitute.
Mr. Bergstrom.
Mr. Bergstrom. Brilliant. Portrayed by Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin. I always get him and somebody else mixed up. But I don't know who the other guy is now. So I get him mixed up with no one.
Getting mixed up with just some rando.
Yeah.
So Mr. Bergstrom comes in because Miss Hoover has Lyme disease, where she might turn into a lime. And he's a bit different, but he's also a very nurturing teacher.
Yeah.
So Lisa obviously takes a big shine to him. And it's weird because she almost becomes attracted to this man.
There's tones in this that you could not get away with anymore. There's aspects of this like even shown the way it did, because there was like things of his intelligence and his good looks and this and that. She talks about as an 8-year-old mind about her teacher, which is, I get it. It's just maybe this kind of innocent crush type thing, but because of the way a lot of things have happened in many moons, it's just odd to see now.
Oh yeah, it makes you feel uncomfortable, but it's also a thing of even back then in the 90s, you might watch it as an adult. We might watch it at our age and look at it and still feel uncomfortable, not even because of the times that have passed, but just because you think, oh yeah, 8-year-olds think like that, and she just doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And that's the bit, is the end of the day. She doesn't understand the feelings that she is having. She might understand them. I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like she really understands exactly what she's saying and the power behind what she's saying. The other big thing from this episode is that Mr. Bergstrom gives Lisa something that she has needed and not had for the longest time, and that is a male role model in her life.
Yeah.
Homer's not that.
No.
Homer is not our male role model.
Try again?
The thing.
Yeah.
Homer is not her male role model.
Good job. I did it. You used your words.
I did. Yeah. But at the end of the episode, obviously, she shouts at him because she just sees him as uneducated and not understanding and all that stuff. But Homer manages to get out of it, not because of the usual Homerisms, but he shows Lisa that that's just who he is, and it's just he's never gonna be on the same level as her, but he's still gonna be her dad and her friend, and he's still gonna be there for her because that's what he is.
The thing that I got from that was Homer's always accepted that Lisa's better than him, even as a young age. He knows that she's going to be better, and she even says it. It's like, you're going to go places and you're going to meet people, And it was such a
Mhm.
lovely thing that he said. They went, I know you've, because Mr. Burstrom leaves as substitute teacher. That's the whole point. You leave. You have to go and help others. And he has a line that I'm going to get back to that was fucking gold. It was actually so eye opening. But with Homer, he goes to Lisa that you've lost someone that's special to you. I don't understand that because I haven't lost anyone special because everyone special to me is under this roof.
Yeah.
You're going to have people like this in your life. You're going to see, you're going to have special people, and
Mhm.
I will always still kind of be here. But the big thing with Mr. Birdstone that was lovely, and everybody talks it back to the letter. It's like, I am Lisa Simpson. That's all she has that
Yeah.
ever needs. I don't even think that was a bit to take on board as much. One of the bits that got me was the problem with being middle class is anybody that cares for you needs to leave you for people that need them more. And
Yeah.
it was just, that was so potent and such a throwaway bit as well because it was so true. It's like anybody that would have a bit of compassion are
Mhm.
always going to need to go with people who need the help more. And it was
Yeah.
such
So
an awakening of like, wow, that's powerful to tell an 8-year-old.
yeah, it stems into like a lot of social work kind of stuff as well. And you might get those kids at school who are, it's very difficult to phrase these days, but the ones learning difficulties
Yeah.
or stuff like that. Not even through disability, but just through
Behaviour.
just other stuff. Yeah, exactly. They'll be the ones that receive more attention, but then as soon as they no longer need that attention, it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's harkens back to stuff like that. So that's her experience of it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a cool episode because you get the
mhm.
dynamic of when Homer wants to be a bit of a dick, Homer can be a right horrible guy. Cause,
Yeah,
and then it goes into a lot of the whole things of, oh, he cried at a book, and oh, men don't cry, and him and Bart have a laugh at it, and you realise the reason that she's drawn to Mr. Burstrom is because he's empathetic, he is open to his emotions, he's just a cool guy,
yeah,
and a Jewish cowboy, because, there's a few of them apparently, and they were the
yeah,
quickest draws in the West.
yep. And they spent their money well.
Oh, he went there.
That's what he
I know he
said.
does. I know he does. It's just
Um,
still here. It's funny.
he also references a film that he was in with a
Yes.
very quotable line, the whole "Mrs. Krabappel, you're
Trying to
trying to
seduce me.
seduce me," which comes from The Graduate,
Yeah.
which he was in. Then that was his line.
Yeah, it was quite cool. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's when we start really getting introduced. Because I always forget these early seasons is when you get introduced to Mrs. Krabappel being a bit more of a, I like to be with quite a few people in my day. Even though she was meant
Yeah.
to be still married. She was with the sushi guy, but in this one she talks about,
Yep.
our marriage isn't really our marriage anymore. You're like, so when did this happen? Because who was the cheater
Yeah.
then in the first place? We have a
But in
backstory
The
and we need to
Simpsons,
find out.
this could have been the span of like a week or something like that.
That's true.
They could have happened
Yeah,
all at the same time.
that's a fair point. But yeah, there
Yeah.
is a backstory to Miss Krabappel that we can't find out because sadly she's dead.
We're never gonna find out more.
Yeah. She's got a sorted past that I must know about.
Lisa Substitute is a really good episode, and you know what it is? It's an iconic episode. This is one that if you looked at a list of all the episodes from this season and tried to pick out the most important ones, that would be one of the ones you pick.
Yeah, actually, and then the next one's actually up there with it. It's like they did 2 back to back with the War of the Simpsons, and I've realised because I've not done this in a while, I've lost my segues.
Mhm.
Remember my last one? I segued
Oh,
everything.
that you did so well.
You even admitted a few of them were brilliant. Don't you lie? Don't you sit there with that stupid look
No, like
as if I'm talking mince?
yeah, they started off like you did them, and then they fell off a gorge. Anyway, we'll take us.
Oh my god! I heard Donna laughing from upstairs.
Ha. Well, you just take us through the War of the Simpsons then, Chris, and I'll just sit here and
Yeah.
just
So
chill
War
out
of the
while you.
Simpsons starts in a very normal Simpsons way. Homer gets too drunk. Homer makes a tit of himself. Marge is fucking done with him now. She's like, I am out, and then decides to sign him up for marriage counselling. The story, this is quite simple. But it's when they go to marriage counselling things kind of start fucking slipping. where you realise the selfish nature of Homer. And I hate how this ends. I hate it so
Me
much.
too.
I fucking
Me too.
hate it because there's no resolution. So
Nope.
after Homer makes an ass, they go to marriage counselling. But Homer finds out there's a lot of catfish in this lake. He's like, I'll get some fishing. And Marge's like,
At Lake Catfish?
yeah. And it's like, Marge's like, what? Are you actually ripping the piss here? Like, we're here because I'm about to divorce your fucking ass. And yet you're still thinking about going fishing? And then he's like, oh, well, okay. And then he meets them crazy people talking about the big giant catfish that I can't remember his name.
General Sherman.
All right, yep, big general. And then suddenly he can't help himself. And then he gets up super early to go catfishing. Sorry, it's just the fact that, oh, that's so good. Anyway,
Well done.
Thank you. And Marge catches him leaving, and she's like, if you want to go, fuck off then. And he's like, yeah, cool, no bother. And I'm like, he's actually leaving.
Well, so he doesn't intend to go fishing after that.
Yeah.
He's just like, right, I'm just going to go for a walk, clear my head. And some kid leaves his fishing rod and he picks it up and he's like, you forgot your fishing rod. And the general's hooked. He could have just pointed to the fishing rod and said, you forgot that.
Or let go. Just let it go,
Yeah.
man. Like, Frozen has always had the best phrasing in the world. Just let it go. Like, Elsa had it right. So that happens, then the seminar keeps going on. And
Yes.
Reverend Lovejoy eventually snaps and goes, I have never said this. You are 100% right, and he's to blame. And I will put
It's
that
all
on.
him.
I will put it in a bit of paper to prove it was him. And you go, right, cool. Problem is, this is the last couple minutes of the episode. So the resolution of this is genuinely Marge getting annoyed at him and telling him, push it over. Like, if you're that way you feel, I'll throw it back. And she's like, no, you won't. And he went, I will, watch, and throws it back. But he does it in an angry way. So he's not doing it because he loves it. He's doing it to prove a point. That has nothing to do with trying to fix his marriage. And then he has this big revelation like, oh, I love you. I did everything you say. Well, no, you didn't. You did it out of spite. That's like one of our other halves going, oh, could you go do the dishes? And then you shout and scream at them as you do it because you're doing it out of just sheer spite of them. You're like, no, he's been a Wayne. He's actually been such a child.
Yeah, and it doesn't really feel like Marge didn't really get anything out of that. Like, she went on that whole rant that kept them up until the middle of the night to like go over all of Homer's problems, which she obviously admits and says she needed to just get off her chest.
Yeah.
But none of those get addressed.
No, it's like,
which is the problem.
It's like everything with their relationship ends up being Homer ends up on an adventure, comes to a revelation or something, and then comes back. It was like the episodes where Homer was seen as a gay guy for a while, where they have a falling out, Marge kicks him out, and instead of Homer coming to some revelation of who he is and how he can be better, he has an adventure that pushes them back together through a grand gesture. He is the Ted Mosby before Ted Mosby's. He only knows grand gestures. He doesn't know the ins and out intricacies of showing love.
Yeah. And how many episodes in The Simpsons, this is very annoying, how many episodes in The Simpsons just involve Homer and Marge breaking up for a short while? Or not even just that, Marge getting angry at Homer and kicking him out?
Yeah. And then having
so many episodes.
But that's the thing, see, thinking about it now, it is so formulaic. When we get those episodes, you'll get it. They have a falling out. Homer leaves. Homer does something mental. Which forces him to do something else mental that Marge notices, that Marge sees as a sign of taking each other back, and then they get back together, rinse and repeat maybe a season later. It's almost as clockwork as Treehouse of Horrors. Like, that's what it feels like with their breakups.
Except all the Treehouse of Horror ones are different.
And fun.
Yeah.
So, all in all, it had the potential to be such a good episode. It had the potential to actually do a season 1 thing of deal with complex issues. And this is where you start feeling it changing, where they don't care about complex issues, they'd rather the jokes. Or the catfish stuff, and then with the fishing rod and the throwing, all that. They cared more about the jokes than they did about the family dynamics which the show is based on.
Yep. And that's sort of, again, this lends itself well to the next episode,
Yeah,
which is just jokes. There's no big thing about this episode.
you,
It's kids can't share.
yeah, three men in a comic, which is it's a decent episode. It's a fun episode. It works more as a jokey episode because it's the kids doing it. Because you expect
Yeah.
him to fall out and be dumb about it.
Yeah.
But it's quite cool to see Bart take some responsibility for himself for earning the money
Yeah.
and get completely
Go get a wee job.
screwed over by that old lady.
Yep.
Oh, that poor boy. Like, I am so on Bart's side for once.
There are some brilliant Homer lines in this episode.
Yes.
So there's the one where he's like, "Hey, back in my day, 50 cents got you a lot," and Bart's like, "Really? Nah."
Yeah.
And then the bit later on when Marge is like, "Oh, can you check on the kids in the treehouse?" And he just looks at the window. He's like, "Oh, they're fine."
Yeah, I love that bit. That's just so good. That is just a epitome of Homer. Like, I don't care. No my problem.
Yeah.
Do
No,
you know what the weird?
I think it also looks like he was drinking in Maggie's room.
Yeah, because he's on that. Where's that beanbag chair? Like, where is it?
I don't know.
Do you know what the weirdest part of this episode is? Martin. Why has Martin got anything to do with this? Because nothing suggests Martin's into comic books.
Because so there's two, like maybe one or two other characters you could have included. Lewis or Wendell.
Because this is not the point where Nelson and Bart are kind of pals because they become friends later on down the line, where they become quite pally. Actually, Nelson's always about. But again, you can have them
but
fighting.
also, especially early seasons like this, Nelson was just too huge.
Yeah.
So if they had all paid for it, he would have just went, "Well, this comic is mine now."
They actually
just
drew
walked away.
so big back then. Like, he was like twice the size of them, but then in later ones, he's only like maybe a head bigger than them.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, so Martin, Milhouse, and Bart just fight all night, and then we have a great moment of Martin being Martin about it. Like, well, see, if you guys didn't tie me up, I would be able to save the comic. Because they're all having a sleepover because they can't decide who takes the comic home.
To guard the comic.
And it was £100 comic, and they were daft enough to share it. You don't share something that expensive, man.
No, you also don't like. It just doesn't work. The three of you pitching in for one thing like that.
No.
It's like if three people bought a video game.
No.
It just doesn't work.
No, it does not. And hilarity ensues of them going full kind of like cabin fever. It's like they start going crazy.
Yeah, it's the whole paranoia thing. I'm just like, can't trust them, can't trust them.
Bart loses it so fast, like
Yeah,
instantly.
he was ready to fucking hit Milhouse with a brick.
Yeah, he's just gone. He's like, I will fucking kill every one of yous. I don't care.
And I would too.
Yeah. And it's nice to see Milhouse fight back because Milhouse isn't as weak as he becomes in later seasons. He's like just a normal kid.
Yeah, where he just shouts on his mum.
Yeah, he's just a normal kid right now and it's quite good. And then we get Milhouse changing into the kind of whiny little sod that he becomes and allergic to everything.
You mean Thrill House?
Yeah. But he still has the best line in all of Simpsons. It's later on. I don't know how long it'll be, but it's everything's coming up Milhouse. It's
Everything's coming
the
up.
best
Milhouse.
fucking line ever. I use it constantly. And it's just the fact he's over his flood pants. And it's like, wait a minute.
Yep.
My ankles are wet, but my legs are still dry. Everything's coming up Milhouse.
Oh, my cuffs are bone dry.
It's
oh
so
my god.
good. It's like such a fucking good moment. It's like him and Ralph have some of the best lines.
Yeah.
Which, just top of your head, just before we move on, if you had to pick your best quote, just very quickly top of your head, what is it? Like something you might use a lot, or even if you don't, it's just one of the ones that just constantly gets a rise out of you. Oh, that's anime. Thinking they're like holding the glasses.
There's so many, and I can't even. Like, it's so difficult.
Okay.
And now that you've said that, all Simpsons quotes have left my brain.
Mine's just, this might help jog you, but I'll give you one of mine. Is my eyes, the goggles do nothing.
The goggles do nothing.
Is so good.
Yeah.
So fucking good. And I can't wait till we get there. I might even clip that bit for when we get to that episode because that is just pure comedy gold.
I mean, still to this day, from the same episode, I will repeatedly say Jiminy Jillikers.
Jiminy Jilliker.
Jiminy Jillikers. Jiminy Jillikers.
Yes, that's a great
Just because
episode.
it's a good way to not swear.
Yes. Yes, that's actually a baller episode. That is such a fun one.
Such a good episode.
Ah, soon, maybe in about a year's
Yes.
time.
Oh, we'll get there,
Yeah.
maybe.
So, last episode of the season, we're there.
Yes.
That was my shitty drum roll. Did you hear that?
I
Yeah,
did. I
sorry.
did. It was good. I liked that.
It's the blood feud, which again was just another. This season had a lot of these episodes that they had a cool concept and they didn't do anything.
Yeah. It brings out Homer's worst side
Yes.
in that he's doing it because he's looking to get something back. He's looking for something in return.
Yes. And that
He's not just doing it just to be the nice guy.
yeah, and that's the problem. I've always had that problem with Homer, where because Bart really picks up from him, of my life means if I do something, don't do it for free. Don't do nothing unless you get something out of it. And Marge is lovely in this. This is when you realise how good a person Marge is. When you're doing it to help a fellow human. Just because he's rich doesn't matter. It's like it's about helping him. And the story of it is, Mr. Burns is dying. And Bart's got the same blood type as him and needs a blood transfusion because he's got a disease that means he's not got enough blood. Don't know the name of it, not even going to try and pronounce it, so just going to swiftly get past that. So, and then Bart does it, but Homer's doing it in the idea that if he does it, Mr. Burns will reward them with a big present or money, and Mr. Burns gives him a card saying thank you very much for saving my life. Which he's entitled to do. They never signed a contract. They never said, I'll do this if I get this back.
Yeah.
And as we've seen as the episode goes on, Homer just gets too angry and writes him a horrible letter. And Mr. Burns reads the first part of the letter and is really grateful and is about to give them exactly what they want. And because Homer couldn't just say, you're welcome, it turns into a whole deal where he's got to get sacked from his job. Mr. Burns is actually going to batter him, like he's got to get people to do him in so he can't work again, or even worse, maybe even kill him. Like that's was getting serious with Mr. Burns, and all Homer was sad about was he got caught. That was it. He was sad because he got caught. When Marge said from the get go, "Don't do it. Just don't fucking do it. Just be happy that you helped someone."
Yeah.
And it ends with Mr. Burns giving him stuff anyway, because Smithers plays the Marge role for Mr. Burns, where he went, don't do it because they saved your life. And then that just resolves everything, where they get a giant kind of tiki statue. And that's actually it. There's no jokes in this episode, really.
No.
There's actually nothing in this episode outside of plot A to plot B. There's like a single road. It does nothing else.
No, there's not even like a different start to the episode. It literally just starts with like Mr. Burns is ill. There's not even like the usual Simpsons 2 minutes of a different story blending into something else.
Because usually Simpsons has two stories going at the same time. It tends to be their thing. Is like you have the main plot, and then you have like subplot. So when you had Lisa with the substitute teacher, you also had a really funny storyline of Bart trying to get popular.
Yeah.
And that's how the Simpsons do it. So you've got your main story that has maybe more a serious tone where you don't have the jokes in it, because there was no real jokes with Mr. Bergstrom. But then Bart had all the jokes of like the poster, like vote for Bart as a vote for anarchists, and then he went, a vote for Bart as a vote for anarchists, you know? Where this one just had this one storyline. Watching some of the worst bits of Bart coming out as well. Of like, yeah, fuck them. Let's fucking get as much as we can off them. So yeah, that's it's such a low note to end the season on.
I know. It would, because you wouldn't like, you know, you can donate other organs and stuff like that as well, but you wouldn't, if there wasn't a call for it, excuse me, like, they're always having like blood drives and stuff like that, getting people to donate blood. And occasionally people will just, you know, go and donate organs as well. You know, you can still give up a kidney or half your liver or whatever. But you wouldn't do that just so that someone could give you money in return for it.
Yeah, it was just a pure shitty move. It's the only way I can describe it as pure shitty. It was pure shite.
Yeah. But
I think if I had to reorganise this season, I would put Lisa's substitute, the last episode, because everything about that has this kind of ending and new beginning thing of a nice way to kind of round off a season. because you have this connection with Homer with all his kids. Like,
Hmm.
because you have everything in this with Homer being a bit of a dick the whole way through this season. And
Yeah.
he has this moment where he kind of reconciles with his kids, and it helps him with Marge as well, because Marge gets to see him as a good dad.
Hmm.
And it'd have been a perfect ending. It would have made these other episodes not feel as meh, because
Yeah.
they would feel like there's a build up in the season.
Yeah. So I guess that's the note for the end of the season is it could have ended better. There
Yeah.
were some alright episodes at the end.
Yeah.
I'd say Brush with Greatness and Lisa's Substitute are kind of the better ones,
Yes.
but
It kind of took a slump
yeah,
after,
it
say,
very much
about.
did.
To honestly, it was right after Bart gets an F. Because before that, you had Oh Brother Where Art Thou, which was grand. Principal
Hmm.
Charming, which was a decent episode. The Homer Lucifer's Eight Commandments was a good one, because you got this connection with Homer and his daughter.
Yeah,
And like season 2 started kind of strong, and then it just slowly dribbled away.
yeah.
And I think it's because it's too long a season. Still, I feel like this
22 episodes too long.
it is for the now, considering they jumped from like what 15.
Yeah, they jumped quite a bit, but that's obviously like they were just working. It was the pilot season, so
Right.
obviously you're gonna have less for that one.
Yeah, but I just think, see, imagine if it was only about a 15 season episode. Think of all the best ones you could have shoved into that season, and all the guff you could have
Yeah.
got rid of, and keep them for like when you do decide to do longer seasons. Just, I
Yeah,
think right now you're still trying to get your audience in, but
yeah,
lucky they were such a phenomenon that they couldn't do wrong for doing right. To be fair,
yeah. It was your audience is hooked, so
yeah,
just keep going.
yeah, they're adult enough for us to like it as adults, and they're stupid enough for kids to like it. It's a
Yeah,
good balance.
I would. So, what do you think? Season two better than season one? Season two worse?
Oh, I think they're two different animals.
Okay.
If I'm honest, I think season 1 is a drama with comedy, where season 2 is a
Yeah,
comedy with drama.
yeah, yeah. Well, I guess we can't really, differ them as much because obviously they're doing different things
Yeah.
as well, and there's more to work with, and it's still finding Simpsons is still finding its own legs at season two as well.
I think what we could do is we could do that comparison between 2 and 3, because I think they'll probably have more of a cohesive kind of
Sure.
feel between them.
I mean, that makes more sense.
Because I feel like season 1 was such its own animal, it was such its own breed of show that they just never hit again.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that was kind of because it was more of like a Matt Groening show then. Like it was more from his mind on his, because he has a more dark. See, when you read these comics and that, he had a more serious tone to a lot of his comics, even when they were funny. So I think
yeah,
that plays a lot in season 1, where season 2 is starting to be the other writers are getting in more, the other producers and directors and everything are coming in to really build it into this more bigger reaching audience type of show.
yeah.
So that was Simpsons
So
season 2,
that
guys.
was.
We made it. It only took us an extra 2 months to do it, but we made it.
Well, I'm sorry I had to move.
That's no my problem. That sounds like a you problem.
Yeah, it is.
But on the good news, this is going to be regular again. So if any of you's enjoyed
Yes,
us
we're
chin
back.
wagging about The Simpsons, this will be here hopefully every Tuesday. But hopefully, because we
Yes.
never know how life will go. With COVID slowly starting to ease off, we don't know what will
And
happen.
the world is still on fire
Yep,
at the
and
moment.
if it goes back to normal, weirdly, we might not be able to do this.
We'll see. Um, should we sort of get an idea of how we want to do next season just
Okay,
now?
okay, let's do it.
So there's 24 episodes,
Okay,
including Treehouse of Horror
uh-huh,
and the Michael Jackson episode. The Michael Jackson episode. So the first episode of season 3 is Start Craving Dad,
right.
which is the one with Michael Jackson guest starring, which has been removed from Disney Plus. Obviously,
Okay.
there was a lot of backlash in the wake of
Yes.
new stuff coming out about Michael Jackson, etc. We're still going to do that episode, obviously, because
if it's not
that
on
was
if it's not on Disney Plus, then no, because that's where I'm watching it.
okay.
Is this where I see it? We can discuss it because I know it. We can maybe
Sure.
even discuss some of the stuff around it if you like, but we'll talk about
Sure.
it next week. But I'm not going to watch it because I'm not can't be bothered looking for it if it's not on Disney Plus.
Yeah, if I still had, because I've got a lot of the seasons,
On
particularly the
DVD.
early ones, I've got them on DVD. The only seasons I don't have are 2 and 3,
Right, fair.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have watched the episode, obviously, because it's just is part of the
It's a
season.
good
So
episode as well. It's a fun
yeah,
episode.
but that takes us down to 22 episodes if we're not including those two. So we could split it up as, I don't know, 2 5s and 2 6s. How about that?
Okay, 2 5s and 2 6s it is. I am
Tell
in
you
for
what,
that.
will I just keep you right on the
You
episodes?
you just tell me what I have to
So
watch.
we're not watching episode 1, Start Graving Dad, because that's not there. So we go from Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington,
Yes.
When Flanders Failed, Bart the Murderer.
I think it's so funny that you're telling me this now as if I'm going to remember this by next week.
Okay,
So you just keep me in the loop as we go.
so what we'll do is for the next episode, for the next week, we'll watch 5 episodes because that takes us between episode 1, which is Start Graving Dad, and episode 7, which is Treehouse of Horror. So we're watching 2 through 6.
Okay. I think I can remember that quite well.
I damn well hope so.
So that the big idea, what we always do, is to try and quarter the season so that we get to finish a season a month. And in October, we're doing the Treehouse of Horrors. We're doing all of them. We're getting all the Treehouse of Horrors done in October, so that's going to be quite a month.
There should be 29 so far.
Something like that, yeah. So we're going to get them all done, and that's going to be baller. I can't wait for October.
We might need to make those streams a bit longer as well, obviously, because we're going to have to talk about more.
Yeah.
Because each fucking Treehouse of Horror in itself is 3 episodes.
Yes, that's true. I have a request to put out to the lovely people who have decided to watch us.
What do we call our fans? The worst.
Ugh, that's us.
I know.
No, because we're the worst. These are
Yeah.
the best because they're giving us our time. So this is my thing for the Simpsons cast. If you've got a weird kind of quiz question about the Simpsons to challenge our knowledge, because I think between the two of us, we're pretty fucking knowledgeable. Like, we got this. Like, nobody's going to give us something obscure that we're not going to get.
I don't know. I've been tested on that before.
Confidence. So if you've got an obscure Simpsons fact or quiz question you want to throw at us,
Yeah.
I would love to have a couple of questions at the end of the stream. I'd love to test my knowledge. So bring your questions to us. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, and what we could do is we could even keep that in the same kind of vein as the Friday film where we start that off.
Yeah.
Start the stream off with those couple of questions.
man.
That'd be good.
That would be freaking great. I would love that.
Yeah.
So last bit of news this Thursday, because I'm going to be here. I'm going to be about. We will be
Finally not going to be drunk.
Shut up. They didn't know that part.
They do now.
So this Thursday, me and Mark, Arkham Cult, will be looking through Parasite, and we'll have clips. We're going to have clips. We're going to have dissect scenes of this. So if you're looking for a more of in-depth look at a good film, because it's a good movie, please come along. Come see us talk about. Yeah.
Mark and I. You said me and Mark. It's Mark and I.
I don't care. I don't care. It's me. It's me and me. Oh, what a...
And also, yes, everyone, I do only have the one shirt.
That's so funny.
I don't own any other shirts. It's just this is it. And Chris, you'll also be glad to know I'm back to wearing pajamas.
Yeah, big. Oh, I thought we 1 week we got you away from it.
Yes.
Right. So last bit of housekeeping news. This Friday is the Old Boy. This is the start.
Old Boy.
Of
it's a double bill.
A double bill of Old Boy. This is our start of foreign films to English remakes. Who did it better? So if you have any suggestions, please just hit us up on Twitter. Our handles are on screen. Do you see them? Just let us know. Are there any that you think did well? We don't mind horror, but we're trying to get things that aren't as horror based, because horror seems to be the go-to kind of change. So let us know. Give us a tweet, and we will see you. Well, Mike will see you Friday, and I'll see you
Friday,
and I'll see you Thursday. So
yeah,
I'll take us away since you can't
Go
do
for
it
it
anymore. It's always a pleasure, and we have been always the Simpsons. Hey,
close enough.
Close enough. Till next time, guys. Cheerio, bye.
Catch you.